Good morning, world. I've been living in Anakia, an abandoned Japanese home, for over a year now. It's the middle of winter, and it's freezing cold inside. I know. This fluffy robe is kind of sexy, isn't it? But don't let it distract you, because I'm going to need to wear it for my morning routine. Come join me. So the first thing I like to do when I crawl out of bed is to heat up the living room / office. And it's, 0. It was -1 before, but it's warmed up, so it's cold inside, and I gotta heat it up fast. So I use my kerosene gas fan heater. It takes a while to start, but it's pretty fast and hot. I also have my mini split air comb that I need to turn on and get started because it takes about 5 to 10 minutes. But when you're trying to heat the room from 0 to 20, you need all the help you can get. That's why 2 units. Plus, I also plan to use it after I turn the kerosene heater off. By the way, air con stands for air conditioner, but it does heating as well. It's a heat pump system. And in winter, this outdoor unit, despite it being freezing, it can capture some of the thermal energy in the air and, using the magic of technology, create warm air inside. It's a lot more efficient than straight up electrical heaters, but it does take time to heat up. While the living room is heating up, I'm going to get the coffee going. Now, I would use my electric kettle, but that would risk the electricity getting shut off. Why is that, you ask? Well, this thing is my electrical panel. I don't even know how old it is, but it's old. We upgraded it to 30 amps, but even then, if you try to run the air con and the electric kettle at the same time, it will trip the circuit breaker. And if I'm not careful about managing my electrical devices, well, let me show you. This thermal fuse will literally melt, and then I'll have to very carefully replace it. It's no simple flip of a switch. So that's why I use my propane gas stove to heat up the water and avoid any electrical issues. Looks like it's boiling. Let's check the temperature. Too hot, too hot. Because my cups are freezing, I'm gonna run them over with hot water. Ooh, nice and hot. Then I put the milk in. Oh, sorry, I like milk with my coffee. Uh-oh. And then I'm going to heat up the milk in the microwave. The microwave only draws 600 watts, which is only 6 amps in this 100-volt system. And this won't shut down all the electricity. How do I know that? Trial and error, my friend. Trial and error. Alright, steaming hot milk. There we go, the morning cafe au lait kind of-ish, because this is not espresso. I just got this foot heater a few weeks ago, and I'm really loving it. I'm one of those people that constantly have cold hands and feet. I was resorting to filling up buckets of hot water to soak my toes in before I found this bad boy on Amazon. It only uses 200 watts of energy at max output, but provides 5D heating. I know. 5D sounds like such dumb marketing mumbo jumbo, but it is handy that there are heating elements on each side, which there are 5 of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hence the 5D heating. I'd prefer the floor portion of the heater to give a little more heat, but otherwise, very worth it for me, and it doesn't trip the circuit breaker. While I do admittedly have cold feet, it's also true that there's a big temperature difference between my head and my feet. For example, it's 10 degrees Celsius at my feet, But over here at my head, this is basically 19 degrees Celsius. That's a 9 degrees Celsius difference. After the room heats up, I turn off the kerosene fan heater. You're not supposed to use it without ventilating the room. Bad emissions can build up like carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide, which is why I have this carbon monoxide detector. Luckily, the sun comes out from behind the mountain around 10 a.m. to help add heat to the place. If I had proper insulation in place, I would be able to turn off the aircon unit. Because over here there's south-facing windows and the sun provides a lot of heat. Speaking of insulation, you may have heard that Japanese homes have no insulation. That's not true. My house, built 10 years ago, has insulation in between the walls. And my new mini hotel, Silver Daisy Stay Nikko, where I'm standing at right now, also has it. But it is true that old Japanese homes often don't have insulation. The reasoning I hear is that the homes are designed for summer and specifically to combat humidity, which results in mold. You want to keep airflow, you don't want to seal things up. If you look below on merely old houses, they have vents built into the foundation to let air pass through. But if you go really old, you won't even find a foundation. The frame is put up on stones and the air easily passes underneath through the house and up through the floorboards. In the summer, plants were growing up through a section of the Akia's floorboards. Most of you will know that Japan has sliding doors that are made of paper, called shoji. But did you know that down below, underneath the tatami mats, paper is also a strategy to provide insulation. Newspaper to be exact. I found this out because when we went to replace the tatamis, we were able to read the news from years past. So in an effort to make the room we plan to sleep in a little more insulated, we did a bit of renovations. Instead of the original tatami, we decided to put in laminate flooring. But first, below it, we put down blue styrofoam. For the walls, we replaced sections of the fusuma, the sliding doors, with some of the blue styrofoam sandwiched between plywood. And while I think this has helped, it still gets really cold. Given enough time, the air will slowly leak out, and the temperature inside will be nearly the same as the temperature outside. But our biggest issue was the living room. This place was drafty. In our first year, we thought our weak point were these shoji screen doors, as after all, they are made of paper. So we put this blue styrofoam behind it and covered it in some silver insulation from the 100 yen shop Daiso. Then we put that same insulation over the floorboards and child safety foam mats on top of that. Plus, we also added blue styrofoam to the sections of the wall that were thin plywood panels. This I felt basically did nothing. It was still as cold and drafty as could be. Two major reasons, in my mind, were that the windows were not only single pane, but they had gaps between the panes and the frame. Cold air was leaking through like a sieve. And the ceiling, with gaps big enough that I can imagine animals scurrying through, was probably not doing a great job of keeping the warm air in. So, I decided to greenhouse the place. I got the vinyl you use for greenhouses and tried to seal off the patio doors. Then, from inside the house, I tried to seal the ceiling. And you know what? This actually worked a ton to help keep the warm air in longer and make the place a lot less drafty. But it's not perfect. As mentioned previously, the floor level is a lot cooler than the head level, but hey, you gotta take the W's where you can. Now, like I said before, I read that Japanese homes are designed for the summer. But why ignore the winter? Well, I also read that in the winter, the design is to heat the individual, not the room or not the house. That's why items like this, the kotatsu, are very popular in the winter. For your sake, I've made bare the kotatsu. It's basically a table with a heater stuck underneath it with a blanket that wraps around it. So you got hot toes and a cool head. We never use it because the room is in the north and it's the coldest room in the house. Now, I know that you don't come to the channel for fashion advice, or at least I hope you haven't been, but I thought it imperative to address clothing choices. As mentioned before, the goal is to heat up the person, not the space. So clothing that'll keep you warm is a must. I love my big fluffy merino wool socks. Funny thing is, I've had these for years and never wore them because I thought they were too thick and hot. But here, in this old drafty house, they're perfect. Some people say you should go with heat tech from Uniqlo, an affordable, easy choice for your underlayers. I personally find that when I get too hot in them, I can't easily take them off. That's why I've gone this fluffy robe strategy. This one I got from Nitori, the Japanese IKEA. I can easily take it on and off, and it covers me from head to toe, or nearly to my toes. Which is why, in addition to my merino wool socks, I have these fluffy slippers. For the outside, one thing I got from Uniqlo is this thick puffer jacket. I lived a lot of time on the west coast of Canada, and there's an ever-present danger of rain throughout the winter, so I've always taken to layering and wearing a Gore-Tex shell. But that requires 2 layers of clothing, whereas this big puffy jacket is only one, and it's a very warm one. This is my favorite clothing purchase of 2025, and this brings us to today's video sponsor, Uniqlo. Nah, I joke, but if there was a sponsor, I'd make it my mini hotel, Silver Daisy Stay Nico. Since this is a new build, it actually does have insulation. Insulation in the floors, insulation in the walls, insulation in the ceilings, and double pane windows. How glorious. It also has modern circuits that can handle the power draw of aircon units and ceramic fan heaters simultaneously. This ceramic fan heater is definitely something I can't use in the old house, as its 12 amp draw will definitely break the circuit in no time. In any case, if you stay at Silver Daisy Stay Nico, rest assured that you'll get your heat and hot water in a well-insulated building. And if you're really cold, you can hop into our Hinoki sauna. And if you get too hot, jump in the cold bath. It's obviously not full of water right now, but believe it or not, guests do use it in this cold weather. So you might be wondering, why not leave these kerosene gas fan heaters that I use in the IKEA with guests? Well, for one, you need to fill them up. The most common and cost-effective way to do it is to go to a gas station and fill up jerry cans. Or you can get companies to come directly to your house and do this, which is what happens with our propane gas. But to get the gas into the heater, you have to remove the heater's tank. Then you take it to your jerry can and use this handy battery-operated pump to transfer the kerosene. Now you wait as it transfers. When you take out the pump, you make sure to pour out a little bit for the homies. Then you close it up and put the tank back in the heater. While refilling is a pain in the butt, my real worry is the exhaust that comes from burning the kerosene gas in this device. Now, in this old IKEA, I don't think the exhaust is too much of a problem. But in the well-insulated Silver Daisy Stay Nico, I think that is a real big issue where if you don't ventilate properly, it could be quite dangerous for guests. I've cleaned up and now it's time for dinner. And I'll share with you a saying that I just made up. If my olive oil don't pour, it's too damn cold. Technically, too cold is 3 degrees Celsius. So I've resorted to heating up my olive oil with hot water, just like I do with the handle of my knife. We don't ever heat up the kitchen, as it seems easier to dress warmer for the little bit of time we want to use it to make food or drinks. I mean, we'd spend more time heating it up than we'd actually spend using it. Plus, if we ever want to cook food, we have the heated living room. That's because we can use this kerosene heater. It's like its cousin, the kerosene fan heater, but no fan. Well, that's not totally true. There are a couple other differences. One, since there's no fan, it can be battery operated and thus be easily movable, as well as a great backup in case of a power outage. Second, it has a stovetop. It can be used to make Japanese classics like tonjiru or yakiimo. Since it's dry in the winter, people often heat water on the stove, making it do triple duty as a space heater, water boiler, and humidifier. Despite this protective cage, this is the most dangerous of them all. You don't want to touch this by accident. Seeing water, this reminds me. I forgot to talk about the toilet. If you've seen some of my previous videos, you'd understand what I'm talking about. Old Japanese homes may seem primitive, but they do have one technological advantage: the heated toilet seat and the bidet that sprays hot water. Standard for decades now is a socket in the toilet room specifically meant to power the washlet. These washlets are so common in Japan, I'd be shocked if any new home built in the past decade didn't have one. I don't know the exact reason why washlets were initially developed, but now that you know that many rooms in a Japanese home are unheated, you can probably understand why washlets are so ubiquitous. Yet another unheated room is the bathing room. Initially, I thought I'd have to find a way to heat this up. But with the hot water being heated up to 47 degrees, I find the room gets hot and steamy in no time, so I haven't had an issue with showering, as it was only chilly until I stepped into the stream of water. This stone floor would take a lot longer to heat up, which is why this white foam mat comes in super handy. And if you ever get tired, you can just lie down and relax. Many people would also fill up the bath, as modern baths in Japan can be filled and refilled at the push of a button. But ours is old, dirty, and needs to be filled up manually. The horror. That's why we end up going to the onsen, the hot spring. I don't know how much winters contribute to Japan's love of onsens, but I think there's certainly nothing better than sitting in one on a cold, snowy winter night. A nice warm bath gets your blood circulating, and it's a great way to both relax and heat up before going to sleep. Speaking of sleep, let's move on to my nighttime routine. This looks wasteful, doesn't it? Well, it's the price to pay if you don't want your pipes to freeze and burst in the winter. Now, my plumber specifically told me to drip the hot water, which didn't make any sense to me. Why would I waste the hot water, and wouldn't the cold water freeze first? The explanation I was told was that by flowing the hot water at a low rate, the heater doesn't actually turn on, so you're not wasting energy heating water that's going down the drain. And by running the hot water, it pulls cold water through the on-demand propane gas heater, which means it keeps both the cold and hot water moving, helping to prevent freezing. So you're supposed to let the water flow, but how much? The end goal is to keep the water flowing, not freezing. And in harsher temperatures, with less insulation, a steadier flow is safer. Now ask me how I know this. How do I know?
多分これ冬凍結したんかもわかんないですよね。
いやー、ちょっとこれは私たちやったことのない。
はい。
あ、
ちょっとね、あれなんですよ。
それをもう剥いちゃうのか。
ここにお湯を注ぐんですけど、
注ぐ。そうなんだ。
ただちょっとなかなか簡単にいかないんで。
そうなんですか。そんな剥いて。じゃあ留守にする時も、もう水を同じようにずーっと
出していただければ。
出しっぱなしにしとかなきゃいけないんだ。
はいはい。
じゃあ皆さんこれやってるんですか？どこの家庭？でもカバーしててもやっぱり凍っちゃうんですか？そんなに。
凍っちゃいます。
I'd like to say this only happened once, but I think it happened 2 or 3 times. We ended up putting heat tape around the hot water pipes on the outside, as well as insulation. For our hotel, we put heat tape and insulation around our garden hose that runs to the sauna area, and so far, it's been working great. Alright, it's like -3 outside, and this is frozen water off it, so I don't know if this has actually worked or not, but let's see. Oh, no. It's coming out in little spurts. Oh, it works. Oh, that's cool. But this begs a question. Why in modern Japan are frozen pipes a problem? In Canada, I've never heard of this issue in any homes I've lived in. I know about shutting off the outside water or turning off water in cabins when you're not there. It turns out that in most homes in Canada, we pipe water in below the frost line into a basement that doesn't freeze. And the basement doesn't freeze because you have central heating. heating that you leave on, whether you leave for an hour, a day, or a week. Why aren't modern Japanese homes built and heated this way? I started going down that rabbit hole but abandoned it when I was about to call up the architect who designed my hotel. Maybe one day I'll explore that in a different video, but right now I'm kind of tired. That's why I'm going to bed. But first I have to turn off the aircon unit in the living room because I want to use the aircon unit in the bedroom. And you know that if I use both at the same time, that would result in a cold, dark world. Here in the bedroom, I recreate my morning routine where I fire up the kerosene fan heater and the aircon. I let it heat up for about 30 minutes before I get into bed. In the past, I didn't look forward to getting in because in between the sheets, it was ice cold. But while writing the script for this video, I found out, or I thought, wouldn't it be better to have the bed like this because it would heat up the sheets as well as the inside of the blankets. And you know what? It actually does work a lot better. So I do this and then I get in and I... If I was more ambitious, I'd raise my bed up on a frame, as I know the air on the ground is a lot cooler than higher up. For example, it's 10.7 degrees Celsius on the ground. This is despite my aircon being set to 14 degrees Celsius. 14 degrees is actually the minimum temperature the aircon unit can heat to, so that's why I chose that number. Because of the emissions, you don't want to run a kerosene heater while you're sleeping, so I turn it off before going to bed. Before, we'd sleep with all the heaters off, and the room would get down to between 0 and 5 degrees Celsius, which was a bit too much for me. That's basically sleeping in a refrigerator. And for those of you that haven't used an aircon in cold weather, I think it's good to know that it'll periodically run a defrost cycle that can run for a few minutes up to 15. So if your aircon unit stops or suddenly starts blowing cold air, this is why. Another note, when I was making this video, I got a CO2 detector. I know the air quality with kerosene heaters isn't too great, but I was surprised to see that it would take 4 hours to get the CO2 levels down from the not great for you 3000 range to below 1000, the acceptable range. I'm from a city in Canada called Winnipeg, and us winter peggers, I think we're proud of the fact that we can live in a cold climate. And I also think we like to make fun of people who complain about the cold who are from places where it only ever gets a few degrees below freezing. But after moving to Japan, I now understand that it's a lot easier to withstand the cold when you are living in a well-insulated home that has central heating. The more you know. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace. What's living in an old home in the winter like where you're from? You know what? I forgot to show you how we prevent food items from freezing. You see this white rectangle over here? Well, we take the item we don't want to freeze and we put it in. It has great climate control that ensures that whatever you put in doesn't become a block of ice in the morning.